like, to put it short, it's like I don't have to try to inspire people anymore, really. I'm just not afraid to be myself, because I have confidence that the man that this journey has created is genuine, is real, is raw, and that's what you're gonna get. And so that's easy, because like, this is who I am.
This week on the Courageous Podcast, we were joined by Ricky Mena. And if you don't know Ricky, he is an amazing human being. He had a vision or a dream one night, and he's been helping sick children all around the world and inspiring them as they go through tough moments in their life or end of life. And honestly, Berman, I was holding back tears from reading the stories during this one.
Yeah, Ricky is not only real, but he's like a real superhero. I mean, he dresses up as Spiderman and goes around the country seeing things front and center. That would be really hard for just about anybody. But on the other side, he gets to bring a little light to kids coping with cancer or terminal illnesses and their families. And on the real side, like I said, he's such a cool guy. And it's funny, he was talking about like, it's hard to live life now without like a real meaning, because like everything he does is purpose centered, and it's not in like the lame like, oh, find your purpose. Like he lives in like, he wants to be part of that. He wants to be fulfilled, and you can feel it in that fulfillment.
Well, I think seeing what he has seen by doing this really puts things in context, and so you understand how precious life is and that it can be really short, right? And so some of us are just not as lucky as others. So very meaningful, powerful story from him. And also the fact that, you know, he had to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder going through this. And so I think there's some learning moments in here too, just on what that was like for him. And this will kind of put things in perspective for all of us.
I would say brace yourself for this one, but don't shy away from it. I think it's important that we all kind of hear and learn the lessons that Ricky's going through. I am so excited for our episode today, because we got a guy here that, in my opinion, is like the living, breathing definition of courage. And Ricky Mena, you and I met, 5-6 years ago now?
It probably was more like almost 4, I think, because we met at the that conference, right? Or was it
Human Gathering?
Yeah. So I think it was. Yeah, it might have been 5. It might have been 5. I mean, time just flies, so I don't know. I lost track.
Well, let me, just to paint the picture of how you were introduced to me. We had the opportunity to go to this like 100-person gathering, hence the Human Gathering, and out walks onto stage Spiderman. And and Spider-Man's coming after like some CEO executive that's running some 15,000 person company, and then Spider-Man shows up, and I'm like, oh, here comes Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then we very quickly learned a little bit about your story and how, I mean, honestly, Ricky, I get choked up thinking about the fact that you commit your life to going around the country meeting with kids who are coping with cancer and their families. And if I'm getting it wrong, correct me. But
that's right.
And you have now been doing this for how long?
This August will be 6 years.
For those of you who are listening, by the way, he's wearing an Oakland A's jersey because it's opening day.
Yeah.
How are they going to do this? How are they going to do this year?
I mean, I don't know. It's a short season. I mean, if let me say this. This is our chance, because there's 60 games. So if we could just go on a good hot streak, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, I used to be an Orioles fan. I gave those dreams up a long time ago. And now I'm going with the Padres, since Ryan and I both live in San Diego.
Oh, there you go.
It's about time, Berman.
I'm on the bandwagon. I can't quit my Washington football club team, whatever we're going to be called, but that's
the Washington football team.
It's so sad. Well, that's another show altogether. But Ricky, again, when we talk about courage, I just can't think of a more like a tandem of courage than children going through cancer, and then your commitment to walk into their lives and to try and cheer them up. How did you get started? And just talk us a little through your journey.
Yeah, my start with this journey was random, was not planned. You know, I just I moved back from Philadelphia after failed love and came back to the Bay Area where I'm originally from. And so my friends called me and said, hey, you can sleep on the couch if you want, get back on your feet. And I said, cool. You know, this was the first time in my life that I was like, actually had no kind of like, I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I was like, man, all right, so let me get myself together. So I really got into fitness around that time. I'm 37 now, so that was like, I was about to turn 30 at that time. So we're talking, 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago. And so I was just, started doing the fitness thing myself. Then I got so into it that I wanted to train other people. So that's what I started doing. Got a job fairly quickly at a boot camp gym for like all women. And I was just doing my thing. And I started making some money, get back on my feet. And then one night came home and fell asleep on that couch that my friends were like basically lending to me. And I had a dream that my grandmother, who had passed away a few months prior to that, and she basically came to me, put her arm around me, walked me to this movie projector, turned it on, and this movie shot in the sky of Spiderman visiting kids in the hospital by the thousands. And then in the dream, I just remember asking, like, what does this have to do with me? And she told me that was me. And then when I woke up, I was to do everything I could to do that. And so I kind of woke up from that dream, and it was interesting because like my friends were at work, their daughter was at school. I'm there by myself on this couch, like with barely any money in my pocket. The only thing I owned was a Chrysler 300 at the time that I had paid off, years prior. And I just was thinking to myself, like, that felt so real. And like my grandmother's presence. And so I remember getting up and kind of stretching, looking out the window and thinking to myself, well, if I sell my car, then I would probably have money to buy a Spider-Man suit. But I had to run it by my friends who were basically feeding me, and it was a crazy idea because at that time, people have to understand, like at that time when my friends came home and I proposed this idea of being Spider-Man, it was very simple. I want to just visit a few kids. And buy a suit. I want to look as real as possible, but like, it was just, I'm going to visit a few kids. It was never like, hey guys, I want to start a nonprofit. I want to go visit thousands of kids. I want this to be my life story. That, it was not that. It was like this feeling that I had to knock out these 1 or 2 visits to do that. And my friends, man, thank God for them, because they looked at me, instead of looking at me crazy, they were like, well, you'd be crazy not to, because there's only one person in this world we know that could do something like that, and it's you. And so I sold my car, man. And then I sold my car like 2 days later for like, something ridiculous, man. I bought that car, when it was brand new for like, I don't know, 40 grand, something 42. I sold it for like, I want to say like 12, something stupid. And then I bought the suit. My first suit was, it was pretty expensive. It was well over $1,000. And then I bought like a small pile of toys, like little dollar toys that I could maybe give to kids. And and I decided to visit special needs kids first because, I wanted to see how it was being in the suit and like see if I was even good at, being Spider-Man, or like being of like a therapeutic type of presence in these children's lives. So that's essentially where it started. It was super simple, came from a dream, man. Honestly, like a literal dream.
What's it like? Like, how do you go about that first visit with the kids? What was that like for you?
Well, if you want to hear a funny story that I haven't really told anyone, the first time I got my suit, and so when I ordered it, it took like 2 months to get. So by the time it came in, because it's like custom fitted to my body, you know, and all that. So I get it, and I was so excited to try it on. There's a note inside the box that said, "Do not put on by yourself. Like you need help doing it." So I was like, my
I
friends
watched
are
a
on
video
home.
of you getting it on. It's pretty
Yeah. So
complicated.
yeah, well, you saw the video. That was like my first suit that you probably saw on YouTube and everything. So I put the suit on, like I've never read instructions, whether it was video games or putting bikes together. I just literally right now put a mountain bike together before we got on this, and I didn't read one instruction. So that's where I'm at. And so I was like, I'm putting this on, and I got the zippers. I was like, you know, folding myself in weird positions. And so I finally get it on, and I was so excited. You know, I looked at myself in the mirror, and the first feeling was, whoa, you know, I look like him. Like I looked like, it was so movie quality. I couldn't believe it. And my fitness level was right where it needed to be, all that. So then I was like, cool, let me take a picture. So I pick up my phone, and that was the first time I realized on a touch screen, the gloves don't work, right? So I'm trying to take the picture. Nothing. I like get one off. It's blurry. And I'm like, well, let me get the suit off. I'll put it back on when my friends come home. I was stuck in the suit for an hour. Panicked. If there was any time where I felt claustrophobic ever, it was that hour. It was like torture, and I thought to myself, wow, like my grandmother was trying to, you know, came to me in a dream trying to kill me, basically. But that was the first time I ever got in the suit, so it's not really a glamorous experience. But
By the way, nothing
you know,
says superhero like I can't escape my own suit.
yeah, and what's funny is like if you watch like any super, like especially Spider-Man, you know what I mean? Like when Tobey Maguire, you know, the first Spider-Man came out, and he was like really goofy, right? It was like he was trying to learn how to shoot webs. He did this, you know, he didn't understand what was going on. He crashed into the wall. That was totally me, like with no cameras, no nothing, just crashing, you know, stuck in the suit. I'm panicking. I was panicking. I was ready to rip this, you know, $1,500 suit off of me, and call it a day. But my goddaughter, she at that time she was in a like dance studio doing her dance school stuff, and she was like I think 5 at the time, 6, and so in her class, they would teach special needs kids how to dance and do these recreational activities and, you know, build these like bonds and friendships and teamwork and all that. So I knew that. And I said, hey, like I reached out and said, hey, I got the Spider-Man suit. Like, is it cool if I do this? So the first time I actually visited any children were in her dance class in our empty garage. That was the first time. And it was just like, let me see what it feels like. And honestly, the first time I ever visited any kids, it was like, it wasn't a great experience, to be honest. I mean, the kids loved it, but for me, I couldn't see. There was no, I didn't figure out that you need to put like Rain-X behind the lenses to keep them from fogging up and everything. So I was blind the whole time. But the first visit was really me trying to find my way. Like, do I stand as Spider-Man? Do I, you know, position myself? And I have my friends film it. So, and I never posted those videos. I just kind of like studied myself, and then I would watch the movies and I read the comic books and all that. And I wanted to see like Spider-Man's mannerisms to be as close as I could, to be as convincing as I could without saying a word, you know, because of the way I stand or because of the way I'm, you know, crouching or whatever the case may be. So it was definitely a learning experience that first time. It was crazy.
It's an awesome story. I want to go back to your childhood and your upbringing. I heard your mom was a pretty big influence in your life. Is that right?
Yeah, she still is. Yeah.
Can you tell us just a little bit about growing up and how you became the person you are today?
Yeah, I had a really good, solid, like, upbringing. You know, I had a mom and dad that both really cared about me. They had a solid marriage for 24 years. And, you know, they're divorced now. That was more recent, that was when I was an adult. But, like, when I was a kid, like, you know, my father was in the military, super disciplined. My dad really instilled in me creating goals, following through, being a man of your word, respect, others. Like, I mean, this was driven home with me, you know, my father. And it helped that he was not just in the military, but he's a full-blooded, you know, Mexican. So it's like in our culture, I mean, respect is a big thing, you know, and so respect your elders and all that. So I grew up with that. And then my mom, she really like gave me more of like the sensitive, like, it's okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to cry if you're a man, you know, type of thing. And my dad, you know, he reinforced, like, my father was great on that end too. He just didn't really talk about that much. But like, whenever I feel like I wanted to cry, my dad was like, if you feel like it, just do it. You know, no one's gonna, you know, you got to get it out. And so I had really good parents in that aspect. But growing up, my mom, you know, from my earliest memory, you know, I'm 37 now. It's harder to remember when you're younger as the older you get, you know. So my youngest memory actually isn't really a great one. It's just of my mom being sick all the time. And so I grew up taking care of my mom. My dad worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs to keep everything going for us. And my mom, she worked part-time, and sometimes she tried to work full-time at Kaiser whenever she could, but her health like really like affected her ability to go out and like enjoy her life or even like make money. And so I saw that growing up, like every day, every single day. I used to get woken up every single night. My mom's bathroom was on the other side of my bedroom wall. And she used to, you know, I used to wake up to her throwing up every night. And that's a hard thing to deal with, because like when you're a kid and you just think, oh, this is life. But you start questioning when you get older, like, why my mom, you know? And then when I started getting older, especially in my teens, my father put more responsibility on me to like get my license, take my mom to the appointments. She couldn't drive herself because she was getting treatments. And so I took over there. I was a big brother to my sister, you know, so I took more of like a leadership role in the house. And, but I've always been a caregiver to my mom, like even to this day, you guys, like, and not to really like try to put her business out there, but we just moved to this beautiful place in Colfax. We changed our business location because I just needed peace of mind, and Heart of a Hero needed a place where it could kind of expand and stuff. And we needed a little more room. And so we have an extra room here. And still to this day, I'm, you know, calling my mom like, Mom, please come here, like come. And so that's always been at the center of who I am. I'm a mama's boy, you know, and so she just, you know, watching her go through all the things that she goes through, but still fight to go to work. She never really made no excuses. And she fights to go to work to this day. She fights to get up and enjoy her life the best she can. She has a lot of chronic illnesses that aren't going to go away. So, you know, and she just had a cancer scare, but thank goodness it came back negative for that. But yeah, man, it's just been, and it's kind of interesting how like I grew up with that. And to be honest, I hated hospitals because of that. Like when I became an adult and my mom and dad, you know, got divorced, and then my mom met someone else, my dad met someone else. It was like, cool, my mom has someone to take care of her. You know, I didn't really have to be around as much. And so, but she'd get, you know, I'd go visit her in the hospital. And to be honest, before I was even Spiderman, I hated it. Because I spent my whole life there. And so I think it's interesting that I'm doing what I'm doing now, because I feel really comfortable. I feel really comfortable now in like the most troubling settings in the hospital, like as Spider-Man, like specifically in the suit. And so I don't know. I just think it was all meant to be, you know.
There's like a famous proverb that fear and courage are brothers, that you actually can't get to the courageous choice without first addressing your fear. And you had to hear you say like hospitals was not your thing. I don't think hospitals is anybody's thing unless you're a doctor. But now, I mean, how many kids do you think you've gone and visited? Do you keep track of, like, do you have your stats on all this?
Yeah. So I misspoke earlier. I said August would be 6 years. Actually, early October will be 6 years. But we've seen, and COVID-19 kind of slowed us down this last year. Usually we see anywhere between like it just depends, 3,000 to 6,000 kids a year. It just depends. Like, but we've seen over 12,000 kids in almost 6 years. And that's from California to as far as London. So, you know, we've seen quite a few kids. There's a lot of like, and for anyone who hasn't watched the journey, it's like, it's crazy. Like every day is different. It's like some days I'm visiting one child at their home, or one child at the hospital who's at the end of life, or in a hospice care situation, or I go visit a special needs classroom or classrooms, and you visit like, 30 kids in one day, or you go to a hospital, which is like, when we go to hospitals, we see about 30 to 40 kids, and we spend about 5 hours there. And I go room to room and spend time with each and every child, their siblings, everything. We make sure we take time. But every day is different. Every year is different as far as like the number of kids we see. I try not to get too fixated on the numbers, even though like our investors and sponsors want to know that kind of information. I hate that stuff because like, to me, it's like, when I say that, for me as the CEO or the guy who is Spiderman, it's like, oh, we've seen over 12,000 kids. That's cool because it says what we've done in our determination and what we're doing in our mission. But it kind of takes away like the how special that one is, because as a father, Ryan, that your child is 1 in a million to you. And so I don't ever want any parents to ever see me speak or even see me in person and ever feel like, okay, he's at a level now where it's kind of like it got so big that he's just visiting another person. He won't remember us. And this is just, he's going through the motions. It's not that at all.
Do you ever get like scared? Like when you're putting on your mask and you're meeting a child or a family for the first time and you don't know what you're walking into, do you get like nervous for that?
Hell yeah. I get nervous. I get nervous before every time I put the suit on, whether it's before I put it on for the hospital visits or a one-on-one visit. I'm getting dressed in the back of the van, I get nervous every time. And I always told myself, and I told my wife too, because I had a different journey that kind of jump-started like 3 years ago when I was diagnosed with PTSD, and like a nervousness turned to anxiousness, and it became different. But I told my wife, the day that I'm not nervous, the day that I'm not like feeling like, my blood's flowing before I get this going, or that I'm a little worried, like that's the day that I need to stop. Because to me, the nervous, in translation, that's that I care. Like I care about how this visit goes. I want it to be good for the children. I want it to be good for the parents. I want everyone to have the best time possible, in that moment. Because like, we're walking into situations to take you away from what you're experiencing. Some things that you and I, and even though I've been there, like I've been there thousands of times at the worst case scenario, right? But I'll still never pretend to know what it's like from a parent's shoes. I won't pretend to say that. And so I just go in every time like it's the first time, honestly, because it is, and every situation is so unique because every person is, and every person's reaction is, every kid's reaction is. So, there is some kind of like confidence that I do have in my own ability because of all the times we've done visits, and I take some of that with me. But it's good to feel nervous because it keeps you on your toes. I definitely feel nervous still. And to be honest, because of COVID-19, I haven't been suited up in person for a child in over like 100, and I think like something like 130 days now. So I'm I'm going to be nervous when we get back to it in person, So, but yeah.
I'm curious, Ricky, obviously it has a huge impact on the kids, and you talk about their imagination and how cool of an experience that can be. But what do the parents say to you? I mean, that has to be pretty special too. Have you stayed in contact with any of the families after?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of families. I mean, I think just by nature, like I said, 12,000 kids is a lot, right? And so There's a lot of families that they choose not to keep contact anymore. I'll send messages, and the thing is like when children are going through their battle throughout their journey, we're always in contact, but sometimes children pass away, right? And sometimes parents just want to let go. And to be honest, this part hurts me a lot. Like So there's a girl that like I was known for visiting. Her name was Zamora Moon. And I became family with her family. And this was like one of the closest I've ever got to any families or children or anything like that. And I mean, me and the mom call each other brother and sister to this day. But there was a moment after, I want to say a year after her daughter passed away, and I was going through my own thing. I was going through PTSD because I was there holding her hand when she died. And so I was going through my own stuff, and I needed to get through it. But I text on one given night, her mom texted me and said, I haven't talked to her in a while. You know, it was like a year since or like a couple months since we spoke, a year after her daughter passed. And I said, I asked her the question. I said, hey, can I ask you a real question? And she goes, sure. And I said, because I was trying to hang out with her. I was like, hey, I want you to meet my wife. I want you to, like, let's link up. And I said, you've been kind of dodging me. I'm like, are you dodging me because it's hard to see my face because I remind you of your daughter? And she said, yeah. And so for some families, you know, as special as it is for me as Spider-Man or me as the man I am to walk in their lives at that troubling time, I'm also a reminder of that too, I think, sometimes. And so sometimes families choose to, keep me at a distance, keep me on Facebook, keep me on Instagram and stuff like that. And that's totally fine. I support people, parents in any capacity, but there's families, man, who have kids who've also beat cancer and stuff and have like, there's some children that I met who were literally on their deathbed, doctors saying they're going to pass away. And I went there to have that last conversation with them, and they're still here to this day. And that was like 4 years ago. And so, and we talk, and there's been kids that I visited who, when they were 15 years old, and now they're 20, and I bumped into them at the gym. You know what I'm saying? I'm there awesome. Like, you're Spider-Man. You came to visit me. And I'm like, whoa. And so, after 6 years, it's crazy because the dynamic is like, I visited, some kids when they were 15 or 14. Now, 5 years later, 6 years later, they're adults. Like, and it's just crazy because they message me and they go, hey, thank you. Like, dude, like everything you did for me. And so we try our best to keep in contact, but we never force it, I message everyone back. Like, I'm notorious for that. My wife says, Ricky, you gotta stop messaging everybody back. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I can't stop, because I just care about everybody so much. You know what I mean? And so I try to keep in contact with everyone. It's really hard though. But there's just naturally, there's some families that stick, and we have those, like just yesterday I posted on a Heart of a Hero. We got a photo and a letter, from a family, for a little boy named Zane, and Zane the Brave, and he's battling. He's the cutest kid ever. I haven't met him. I did a video chat with him because of COVID-19, but he's got, his mom and dad sent me a picture of him and his little siblings together, and he loves Spider-Man. He sent me all these pictures, and then we put it on our fridge, and so we're part of these. We're a family, and it's really cool. I love it. I love it so much.
So Ricky, you talked a little bit just about like your anxiousness and nervousness getting the suit on, but a lot of people don't really want to face this fear related to death, related to sickness. I mean, going into hospitals, like you said. How did you get over that the first time? And it has to be hard. I can only imagine, going in there and being in these really difficult situations with family. I mean, it's not like something everyone signs up for. How did you face that? How do you face that? What are things that you do to kind of mentally prepare for
that? To be honest, the first 3 years, I was visiting kids, and it kind of ramped up. You got to understand, I started visiting kids who were like special needs, and then I really just followed the flow where this mission wanted to take me, meaning I was visiting special needs kids, then parents. When parents start talking, especially in the medical community, it's like that's the biggest advocates you need right there, basically. And so they were like, wow, this guy's amazing with our kids, like what? And so, wow, he got my autistic child who's afraid of masks to wear one, like this is crazy. And so And so I just really, and so that next thing you know, I was visiting kids who were battling cancer, and it got more serious. And then came the day I made my first visit. I got a call, and it was like, hey, from a family friend who was making calls on behalf of the family saying, hey, there's this kid named Charlie. He has cancer. It's a brain tumor. It's terminal. There's no saving him. He has like 8 months from today to live. Are you down to are you down to be Spider-Man for him? She called like 4 other Spider-Man. She didn't feel comfortable with them, talked to me and was like, it's you. And so I was like, yeah. And so I never thought like I would be in that position. So that I want people to hearing this who want to follow the same path to know, like, I think it's important to like gradually kind of, don't just jump into, hey, I got to go visit, dying children because that's what my Instagram wants to see. You know what I mean? Or, Or you're looking for some kind of badge of like this honor thing. So I worked my way up to that point. And even with that being said, I wasn't there when Charlie passed away. I was there at his funeral, and that was the first time I saw like a 9-year-old child in a box. And I was like super friends with this kid. I even did a song for him because I used to be a musician. But I was like, I couldn't even walk up to his casket. I really couldn't, because I was like, this is so unnatural to me. Been to a lot of funerals prior to that for adults, for old people, for people who lived out their lives. And then for me, when I first saw a child in the box, I just imagined like all the dreams and their wants and their goals. He never got to drink his first beer. He never got to shave. His dad's not going to teach him about respecting women and going on dates and whatever. And so that kind of all hit me. But in that moment, a year into my mission, it was like, I at that time, I drew more inspiration from the fact that Charlie had so much courage at the end of his life. He wasn't scared. So I used that to say, you know what? I'm going to put on his wristband and I'm going to wear this. I'm going to walk towards more children because of him. And so I did. And then everything was crazy, man. Like everything started going crazy. Ryan, that's why I met you. I got invited to that because like these influencers and these people who were, see me on Instagram and Facebook started seeing the mission. And I was starting to get places I never thought I'd be as far as with the children or even just the media stuff. And it was like everything was coming so fast. And then right after the time that you and I met, Ryan, that's when I held Zamora. I was in the room when she passed away, holding her hand. And then 2 weeks after that, I held an 18-year-old young man who was my best friend, who I revered as a brother because we knew each other for about 3 years before he passed. I held him in my arms, like literally looking at him, coached him through death 2 weeks after her. So it wasn't until I was in the room with the child who passed away. It wasn't until I held the child. It wasn't until I looked at my friend Daryl, the 18-year-old who passed away, in my arms, and I was hyper-focused on his eyes as he passed away, so he was less afraid. It wasn't until then that I really, like, my brain registered and, like, really faced the reality of our own mortality, mainly specifically being my own mortality. And I think that at that moment, as far as, like, that was the cherry on top, because I was seeing all these kids hurt for all these years. All these kids were hurting, you see all these kids hooked up to tubes. That's one thing. Then for kids to die and you go to their funeral, that's another thing. But then when you're holding children, when they pass away and you're watching life leave, it's not a movie, it's not a movie. And in that moment, you realize that this is like, you just face your own mortality without the veil in that moment. And it is the scariest thing. It's the scariest thing I've ever been through.
It's like, I have 1,000 questions, like I would die a little bit. But then on the other side, if somebody's in pain, do you feel that pain go away? Do you feel the child's pain go away in that moment?
So was Zamora, it's just different with every person, and with Zamora, when I was there holding her hand, she was a 9-year-old little girl that over time became paralyzed because of the tumor putting pressure on this central nervous system of her body and her brain. And so she, by the time she got to the point where she was dying, it's like she already spent like 2 years with, no movement, and her life slowly got taken away from her. So at that moment, when she passed away, I was in the room, her mom was in the room, like one of her family members from Spain flew in from Spain, was there, her dad was there. There was like there was some people in there. And so it was like, I don't know, like 1 a.m. or something like that. And so we were all there, and we were just coaching her through. It's like, it's okay. Her mom was holding her, and her dad was holding her, and I was holding her hand, and they were saying, go ahead, Ricky, you could say something. And I was talking to her, and I was praying for her. And then as she passed away, right, you never know what it's going to be like, because I'm waiting for mom and dad to react. Like, it's like, you're going to see this, like, this burst of, like, I can't believe it, right? And that happens sometimes. But with her parents, it was, and everyone in the room, it was like, I felt it. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to, because I didn't want to be disrespectful at first. But like, I felt this like peace, like, pass through me. And I kind of looked at everybody, and we all looked at each other. And she was gone for like 5 minutes at this point. And we all just sat in silence for like 5 minutes. And then we looked at each other. And then Zamora's own mother said, "Do you feel that?" And I was like, "The peace?" And she goes, "Yeah." And then I said, "Yeah." And it's like, her mom's not okay with her 9-year-old dying, believe me. You know what I'm saying? But in that moment, it was like, man, it was like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, you feel like it, for her at that moment, it was like she passed through it. She let everybody in that room know, look, the burden is lifted off of all you guys. Because her mom, like, flew all the way to London and relocated the other sister. Her little, Zamora's little sister had to go to school in London on the metric system. Like, this is like, you know what I mean? Like, their whole lives were turned upside down. And so this burden was just like lifted off of everyone. And I remember driving home. She passed away like around 1, and then I helped her dad like clean her body. Like, I did a lot more than I should have probably done. I helped her dad clean her body, and the coroners came. I helped them load her up and all that stuff. And it was about 6 a.m., 7 a.m. when I was driving home back across the bridge back to like Oakland, and to go back across the bridge. And I remember the sun coming up, and one of my favorite songs like comes on, and I remember driving across the bridge with the windows down on a crisp like morning, and feeling for the first time in a long time like freedom, like myself. And I felt so like just liberated that she was no longer, even though it's the way we didn't want it to happen this way. It was like everyone kind of felt this sense of like liberation for her, like freedom. She's out there somewhere. We believe that, and she's free from this cage that was her body in this life. And then there's those situations, and then there's the ones like Daryl 2 weeks later, where he literally, some of the last things he said was he was cussing. He was pissed off that he was 18 years old. He was supposed to go to the NFL. He's being scouted. Leukemia, his bone marrow transplant didn't take. Because he didn't really have a good enough match. Not a lot of people know this, but like if you're African American or if you're of mixed ethnicity, you literally have like I think it's something like a 6% like pool to pull from when it comes to your bone marrow like matches and stuff. So his mom was only like a 3 on the match scale out of like 5 or 6 or something, and it wasn't great. So he didn't really have a good chance, and when it came back, it was pretty much a death sentence. And but he was pissed at the end of his life, and that was what was hard about his. And I think that affected me more than like anything, because I was right there. Like I said, I mean, I was close to him as closer than I am to this camera right now in that moment, and looking my friend and my brother in his eyes. The same man I was praying with, that we were praying for a miracle with, and we both believed, and he just was like, I mean, his last words, like, before going silent, before he couldn't talk, was like, he was cussing. He was just pissed, man. And I don't blame him. But that bothered me. And another thing that bothered me is like the look in his eyes at the end. I kind of felt like I saw the fear. And, you know, we're all just human beings. Like all of us, we're all men here, right? But I think that it's not being like less manly to like admit, like, because we don't know what's on the other side in that moment for us, which is coming, we can't like avoid that, is like, that shit's scary. And he was at that moment. And to witness that, I walked away from that with a little bit tougher time. And it was probably about a month after that I started experiencing things that at first I thought were physical, because all my symptoms were physical. I felt like I had the flu. I was like out of it. I was almost passing out, like I was malnourished or something. And then I finally found out through getting blood work done. And my doctor put his hand on my shoulder and said, "This is not physical. This is mental. You got to take care of yourself. You haven't done anything for you since you've seen all these kids. Like, dude, you just held 2 kids as they passed away. You got to do something for you." And man, I had to. At that time, that's when I started fighting for myself, you know. It was like right after you and I met, Ryan. It was like right after that.
I got to tell you, like the 2 stories that you shared, though, you have one room. I mean, you're never fully at peace, so I understand that. But like one room felt liberated, and one wasn't, like clearly like didn't come to grips with that reality. And so for you, do you fear death now, or because you see it so close, you are at peace with that part of it?
I think that we as human beings, okay, I can get super deep on this topic and super like philosophical and really like, because I think about this daily, like because of what I do. Human beings in life, like just before I even did Spiderman, I look back and I think to myself, majority of us, we have movie theaters, we have like you can rent movies at home, there's restaurants, we entertain these relationships. Everything we do in life is sort of like entertaining ourselves, right? It's like, let's go to a show, let's do this, let me buy a motorcycle, let me get a car, and it's like we don't realize as we're doing all this, we're just kind of like subconsciously taking our mind off of the fact that, you know, that we're entertaining ourselves until that day comes, basically. And yeah, you want to enjoy it. We're trying to enjoy life. We tie it into that. But it wasn't until that like I said, I've been to funerals, all that. But it wasn't until I watched like Zamora pass and then Daryl, more specifically Daryl, that I feared death for a while. And that's kind of like what seeing my own mortality in the reflection of his eyes and what he was going through really made me realize and look back at the rest of my life and go, wow, I've just been entertaining myself this whole time. Like, just, you know, time has just been passing. Like I'm 37 now, and it's like, it just blows my mind. But now, like, it was so in my face with no veil, no smoke screen, nothing, that I feared it. I feared it. And that was part of what I had to overcome in my PTSD, my anxiety, my depression, was latching on in the beginning when I first started feeling that, was I was so afraid to die. I was so afraid to die because I saw it, and I was like, the closest seat that you can have to it in a child or a young man, it's like, you know, at that moment, like, okay, there's a 9-year-old that just passed and there's an 18-year-old that just passed, and here I am older than both of them. It's like, we're not guaranteed anything, you know. We can go to the doctor tomorrow and God forbid, but, you know, they could tell us some bad news and change everything. And so for a long time, and I think for a majority of us, we kind of look at other people's stories, especially now, like social media. We're like, dang, that's messed up. So-and-so was 35 and he had a major heart attack. And that's crazy. He's gone. Like, wow, that's crazy. And then we kind of go back to entertaining ourselves again. And it's like, we kind of get submerged in our own lives. For me, it's like, I entertain myself now, not to like, just subconsciously float through life until I get to the moment where I have to face my own death because I'm forced to. I entertain myself now as a form of therapy. It more has like a purpose now, you know, like I just bought a motorcycle, you know what I mean? And so I'm up here riding with my ape hangers and feeling like, this is for me, and it's less like, oh, I want to look cool on my bike and all this, it's like, man, I've been through a lot. I'm going to ride this bike. I'm going to feel this wind while I can, because it feels good and I love life. And so I think that, me overcoming, like, and PTSD and mental illness is an ongoing thing, you guys. Like, anyone out there watching, it's like the problem I had when I first started facing this and realizing that I had PTSD, I cried the first time my therapist told me, this is something that you're probably gonna have to manage. You're never gonna like just ultimately like just it'll be gone one day. I cried because I was like, what? It's like you're living with a broken leg now. That's what it felt like. And so, but, anyways, I had to overcome like that fear of death. That was the main thing that I was like, my brain was latching onto. And it was weird because in that month that I took off being Spider-Man, it's so crazy because I was this courageous person. But when I saw St. Jude stuff on TV and the kids who were battling cancer, I was like, honestly, at home and by myself, almost passing out watching those commercials, because I was triggered by the same thing I was passionate about all of a sudden. That day you saw me, Ryan, up there speaking to the crowd full of people. It was like you saw the version of me that was totally opposite than the version of me I became like 3 or 4 months later, because when PTSD hit, social anxiety set in like I've never felt before, and I'm still trying to get up in front of crowds and speak. So I had to work through it's basically a lot of the therapy and like being afraid of death and things like that. It's like just accepting. A lot of healing comes from the acceptance of like things that we cannot control. And that's like, I think any like notable philanthropist, in history has kind of latched onto the same type of philosophy. We can't stress over the people or things that we can't control, right? And so that's what I let go of, and I'm better now. I still have my days, but I'm walking back into the lives of children again, and I have done speeches in front of people and overcame all that, but it's a little harder. I got to get back in the tank every time, you know what I mean? But it's worth it, So.
What else have you learned? Like, if you think about when you first started this to where you are now, I mean, what's changed you? What's changed in you?
Oh man, like, shoot. I mean, what hasn't? Like it's hard to exist in the world after like, okay, you can't not know what you've already been taught, right? It's like once you know too much, it's like you can't. So it's like the hardest thing, what I had to learn and what I'm coping with every day is that when you are enlightened on this, and I don't want anybody to think I'm saying I'm better than anyone, but when you go through certain experiences, you kind of have this unique maybe perspective on life based on those experiences. So like when I became enlightened by all this journey, it's hard to. I used to try to wear two faces because I try to, you're in the world with the kids, it's this emotional, like everything has a purpose. And then you walk into our world, you get on Instagram and Facebook, or you go to the grocery store and everyone's just living on the surface, man. Like everyone's kind of like, what's most popular on social media is butt cheeks and whatever, you know what I mean? And just stupid stuff on, cause people, and I get it. People just want to laugh. People don't want to think about the shit that you're afraid of. I mean, the number one fear in the world is public speaking. Number two is death. So it's like, you don't want to think about either of those when you're on social media and you're scrolling through at the end of your day. I get that. But for me, I don't have the ability to just be like, all right, well, let me just care about, shit on the surface anymore. I can't. So for me, it's like, it's always on, but I've had to learn how to like manage that depth to still be able to enjoy my life. And that journey in itself, I mean, when I first met my wife, I had like I was going through like my PTSD at its worst, and I met her. I didn't think like in a million years that she would want to talk to me because I felt like a weirdo because I couldn't be in public long enough where I felt like I was going to pass out and I needed to run back to my car, at this time. But like she, I just worked hard at building my life outside of being Spider-Man, and combining the two really made me a better person. Because in my previous life, and I refer to it as my previous life, like when I was a musician, I was just like this person who really cared about like the car that I drove or like the status. I call it like social media or like social currency. And it's like social currency, you guys already know. It's like, it's the cool factor to the world, but really when that cool guy turns off the fans and turns it off, he has no one in his life. He has nothing of actual value, no property, no like longevity to his actual like riches and wealth. And so, but yeah, I got the chain, I got the clothes, I got the fans, and everyone thinks I'm important. But it's like, I had to learn like through this journey to let all of that go because that's not real. And so when I met the kids, it's kind of like, man, like when you watch them go through what they're going through, it's kind of like hard to come home and listen to other people complain about like stuff that like really like, okay, you're talking about normal life shit. Like, like, okay, you'll figure out how to pay that bill. Okay. I just met a mom and dad who lost their child, owes over $1 million in, medical bills for treatment that didn't work for their kid, and they're having to sell their house because of it. You know what I'm saying? So your problems aren't that bad. Let's get through it. Let's not over dramatize these small fucking things in our lives. And so that's what I learned, man, and it made me a better man. Especially in my relationship with my wife. Like, God bless her, because going through mental illness or being with someone who's going through it, it's like she's so patient with me, and but she tells me all the time, like, wow, like in the last 2.5 years we've been together, she's like, your patience, like you're way more patient. Anyone that's used to know me when I was a musician to now, they're like, you're like a different person. It's crazy because I'm not aggressive. Like I used to be that guy who would like, oh, this dude's looking at me funny. Oh, that's not cool. I got to fight this guy. But it's like, now I'm just like,
it's a 180.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of like, dude, I just gave up on giving a shit what the world thought, honestly, and really like started, and that's at the center of what we do. Like as an organization, there's been times where there's been like very reputable people, like celebrities even, or corporations who contact me and Heart of a Hero and say, hey, we want to do this because it's a PR thing. And it's like their whole explanation to me, it doesn't really feel like they care about the kids too much. And it's more about standing next to me just because I can get them into visiting kids. Because I have that. It's hard. You can't just call up and be like, hey, I want to visit a kid who's at the end of their life so we could, that's some bullshit. Like, and so I'll pass on the money. I'll pass on what that brings me, like as far as likes. We'll pass on that kind of stuff because like, for me, it's more important, like what happens between the interaction between me and the children, or like what they get from it. It doesn't help if we're bringing in more cameras and more all this stuff, or if I had this selfish attitude, you know what I mean? It's just like, this journey taught me it. Like I have to write a book about just how much it's changed me, my perspective, and how like I use all of that in my life to kind of, it's like, to put it short, it's like I don't have to try to inspire people anymore, really. I'm just not afraid to be myself because I have confidence that the man that this journey has created is genuine, is real, is raw, and that's what you're going to get. And so that's easy because like, that's who I am and this is who I am.
I think that's the secret. And I think everyone is probably hopefully, especially if they're listening to this podcast, they're probably on their own journey. And one of the words you used earlier that I just think sort of sums it up, maybe like Ricky 1.0 and Ricky 2.0, is you had mentioned the mission that you're on, and you're on this mission. And one of the reasons we wanted to have you come on is to continue to give you the exposure that you deserve, because you are doing meaningful work and genuine work. And even like the guy that when we met, like that wasn't me. That wasn't this me. That was last me. And so like
Right.
when I look at the work that you're doing, it's so meaningful and it's noticeable. And so, I was thinking, all right, I can't be Spider-Man because you're Spider-Man, but like if I was going to come with you, I was like, which superhero should I dress up as? And come with you? And look, COVID-19, I put on a couple pounds. So like maybe I was thinking Wreck-It Ralph. Is Wreck-It Ralph? Can I come as Wreck-It Ralph with you? Or maybe I can come as Hulk or probably Dr. Evil. I think Black Panther's off the table for me.
Yeah.
But if I
vote Dr. Evil.
Dr. Evil, great. This is going to be a poll we send out.
Dr. Evil.
But obviously, I'm like half kidding because I want to like walk with you, and I want to.
Yeah.
I think when we talk about courage, but actually like telling stories of courage makes you want to live it even more. And yes, I did me in a suit. Spider-Man. I did that. Nobody wins with me in a Spider-Man suit.
Yeah, Spider-Man suits is tough to wear. I gained 10, 12 pounds from this coronavirus, and then you're married, so you're comfortable, and you're like, let's get snacks, and you're like, let's chill, watch Netflix. And then after we watched every documentary known to man, because we've been in this situation for quite some time, we said we got to change this, right? And so we just I don't know if you saw my Facebook post, but I'm down the 10 pounds again, so that's good. But it's never, Spider-Man's. Who I'm going to tell you who you could be, Brian.
So excited.
And it's someone that you could pull off, because like your body. I'm not, man. You're sexy, man. I'm not saying anything about this, but when I get older, right now. When I get older, I'm thinking about being this guy too, because look, I don't want to go to the gym like so much, like when I'm like older, trying to enjoy my life, you know what I mean? But like, I want to eat more snacks. But Batman, because he has armor. He has armor.
Look at this armor, Ryan. Look at this armor.
Oh, and then the whole face is covered, so that works.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. You don't want to scare any of the kids, that's for sure. Hey, Ricky, where can people follow you and just give them again just a quick update on the foundation?
Yeah, so if anyone wants to follow Heart of a Hero, that's our organization name. My wife suits up as Spider-Gwen. I suit up as Spider-Man. And so, but you want to just search on Facebook, you'll find us. You'll see our logo as the main picture. And then on Instagram, it's Heart of a Hero Inc. And you can find me on my personal platforms at just Ricky Mena. And you'll see the blue check. You'll see the little blue check there. And I appreciate anyone who wants to help us out. Right now, because of COVID-19, we're not able to visit children in person. So we're doing a lot of video chats like we're doing here. And then we're sending out care packages, and we're kind of just like waiting for the go-ahead to come back in. So
keep doing what you're doing, man. We are followers of you. We're believers of you. And yeah, maybe I'll start working on my Batman suit, and I'll come with you when we can all see kids again.
It costs this, man. That Batman suit costs this. It costs.
I thought you just sell another car. Just sell one of your cars, and we'll turn the money in for.
No, listen. Ryan, seriously. We're so blessed, like Heart of a Hero is so blessed, like, with people who just support us, want to see this happen. If you're really serious about it, I'll put up a lot of the funds to, Heart of a Hero will put up a lot of the funds to make you Batman, if that's something that you want to do. So
it is something I want to do, and it'll get my tail in shape. I love that. Look at that.
See, there you go. There it is, guys.
For those listening, he's showing us a Spider-Man outfit right now, and and hey, man, I hope I get to see you in person soon. Hopefully, we can all see each other soon.
For sure.
And thanks for coming on the show, Ricky. Take care, man.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Next week on the Courageous Podcast, we're joined by keynote speaker Jay Baer.
If you enjoyed the episode, please give us 5 stars, subscribe, and leave us a comment.